Yes, now introducing where I come from on the London Communities Emergencies Partnership. For those who don't know, as a co-host with Groundworks on this and Communities Prepared on these webinars, LSEP is a network of networks. We have two major networks, London Plus, which is embedded in London systems and government and communities, and then the Voluntary Community Sector Emergencies Partnership, which is well embedded in the Resilience and Emergencies Network throughout the country. So together we have a program to ensure that we're linking into resilience in London as best we can. And of course, this means we're linked in across our strategic networks like Communities Prepared, as I said, co-hosting this webinar, and with London Boroughs Faiths Network, London Resilience Protection Approaches, London Business Network for Resilience. And our network of networks is about 200 organizational partners, but it continues to grow. There are a lot of organizations, luckily, in this space. Next slide, please. So why does LSEP exist? Well, a lot of the work that we do is building the networks, having trusted relationships. And in the context of this week, where we're responding and activating around red level alerts, we're drawing upon those relationships to gather insight. What are the concerns from communities? What do they need to know? What messages do they have at the government level? We are attending meetings at the government level across the London Resilience Partnership to understand what we need to do strategically, what messages we need to be sharing, and that information goes two ways through our trusted relationships. Then also in those relationships, we're gathering that knowledge and insight, like I said, about concerns in communities around this heat, and reposting what information is important, what others need to know, and reposting what partners are sharing, what awareness messages they have. And all of this is for being better prepared to all emergencies. So these tactics apply to all emergencies, not just heat. So with that, I'll hand over to Violaine Drapeau for introducing this webinar series and Communities Prepared. Over to you, Violaine.
Thanks, Eli, and thank you everyone for coming on that webinar today on such a hot day. So this webinar is part of a wider program, which is called the London Resilience Communities Program. And we have a goal for this London Resilient Community Program, which is to make sure that communities are more resilient in the face of emergency. And we do that through development of community emergency plans throughout different components of that program, and also establishment of community resilience hubs. What this program is providing is, well, these 3 monthly webinars. So they have been run since January. They'll be running up until the end of August. So we've got including today, 3 more sessions left, and they are recorded, so you can play them online afterwards. And also, especially if you haven't actually been able to attend them, it's a series that is have subjects like community emergency plan and resilience hubs, as well as the topic we are going to be covering today. There are also some other free online resources you can find on the website. So if you haven't had the chance yet, make sure you sign up to the program, which is going to be running to an end very soon, but there is still a lot of activity happening throughout this program. Here is just a really quick overview of the webinar series. So we are on our 6th session today, which is the June session, but we also have a July session on the 30th of July, and then there will be also end of August another session. So make sure that you go and sign up for them if you haven't done so and if you are available. Also, it's worth mentioning that one of the strong resource that a lot of this program is built upon is the London Community Resilience Toolkit. You can have access to it for free. So you can download a copy on the link that is on that slide. If you haven't done so, obviously already, I would say it's very rich resource that you can learn a lot from. It includes things like just information, but guidance and templates of plans or different links that you can go and consult if you are starting to plan for resilience at a community level in London. And you can download it in different formats. So you can use Word documents if you'd like to work directly on them, but you can also just have them on the PDF version if you just like the visual of it. So please have a look if you haven't done yet. But let's dive into our today's topic. So today's webinar is about strategies to tackle a range of climate-related emergencies. So there will be two speakers today. Myself, I'm Violaine Drapeau, and as Eli said, I am part of Groundwork, and I work for the program of Groundwork called Communities Prepared, and my colleague Jessie is also going to be speaking later today, and they also are part of the delivery team overall of Communities Prepared, which is an online resilience program. So we have some free online resources and sessions that you can attend for free. So please have a look if you haven't got an idea of what we are yet. So, so first, just a very quick reminder of what are the risks and the impacts that communities these days are facing. Um, so today we are focusing on a range of climate-related risks that communities may encounter. So we can include there cold weather, flooding, heat waves, very topical today and this week, storms, power outages, and wildfires. So some of those, may actually feel much more relevant to your local area than others. And such, some like, for example, power outages, they actually might be triggered by other severe weather events. So it's worth thinking about them all together. All these hazards are able to affect communities in very different ways. But for example, flooding can damage homes, disrupt access to various services. Thinking about heat waves and cold weather, the two extreme weathers that we can think about, they have serious impacts on health and well-being in people. Storms can really cause widespread disruptions, and also power outages can affect communications mostly and access to essential services for people in communities. Wildfire, they actually can be a threat for homes, infrastructure, and the local environment as well within the communities. But however, rather than really looking at each of these hazards in isolation today, our session is actually going to be focusing on what these events mean for community. And while these different risks and impacts might be very different from one another, many of the challenges that communities will face during emergencies, they are actually really shared throughout these different risks, these different hazards, and many of the actions that communities can take to prepare for, respond to, and recover from them, they are going to be similar. So we're going to think of these actions in a more risk agnostic way today. Okay, so we've looked at these hazards and they can be very different. The impacts are very similar, and on this slide we've sort of grouped these impacts in kind of some of the most broad themes that these impacts can be. So first, we can look at people, impacts on people. Emergencies can affect people's health and well-being. They can increase a feeling of isolation or loneliness in people. And that can be if it's a heat wave, but also if it's a flood, cold weather, or a very prolonged power outage, for example. So, some residents might actually find it much harder to access support, to leave their homes, to be connected to other people when these particular risks are affecting them. A second theme here is communication. So during an emergency, information become really critical, but communities may actually face a lot of challenges reaching vulnerable residents or normal communication channels that they might not normally use. So these might actually be quite disrupted. So there really is a need for trusted local networks to help share accurate and timely information to the people. A third theme there is services and places within the community. So emergencies obviously will disrupt essential services such as electricity, transport, healthcare, any all of the local amenities that people will rely on. So they also can damage your homes and the community buildings that people access on an everyday basis and other places. So people are relying on all these services that get disrupted during these different hazards that can be impacting them. The final theme is community capacity. So as these impacts unfold, the demand for support often will increase, and community organizations or volunteers and local groups may actually find themselves responding to a growing range of needs while they are managing these risks and these impacts within a community. So these organizations are also going to have their own challenges and their own limitations during these emergencies. So these are the four broad impacts that we're going to think about more widely throughout the session today. So what's important to recognize is that while the hazards themselves may differ, many of the impacts are shared across the emergencies. It means that the action that community can actually take to prepare, respond, and recover is actually transferable across these different risks. So that's how we're going to be thinking about it today. Um, but with that in mind, we'd like to hear from you a little bit to think um, about what the impacts that you are more concerned about within your community. If you think about your own community in particular during an emergency, so what are you more concerned about? What are the risks that you're more concerned about? So we have a little poll for that will open for a minute, and then we'll hope to share really briefly the results. So Eli, if you're okay to launch the poll, it should ask us, when you think about climate emergencies in your community, which impact concerns you the most? So we've got several options that you can tick from. So people becoming isolated or cut off from support, difficulty reaching vulnerable residents, that might be more relevant for you, disruptions to communications and information sharing, loss of essential services, so power, transport, water, etc. Or is it damage to home, buildings, and community infrastructure? Could it be that you're more concerned about coordinating volunteers and community support within your community, or you may have other concerns as well that we've not named them, and that's absolutely fine if you do. So let's have another 30 seconds maybe on that poll. And we can already see the results live. And they are really shared across all of the answers with maybe a bit more on difficulty reaching vulnerable residents. So, evenly spread really. It's quite interesting to see that it does spread across all the different areas we mentioned in our possible choices. It really reflects the reality that emergencies affect communities in many different ways. Thank you for sharing, and we might keep for a few more seconds. And feel free, especially if you've put others, you could share in the chat for people to see what you are thinking. But it's also interesting to see that not many people are thinking yet of that capacity of volunteer networks and how this could be also disrupted. Thank you. I think maybe we can stop sharing now the poll. Thank you very much. So thinking about these impacts and these risks, we can think of three main roles really that are actually crucial for communities to fulfill during emergencies. We'll start with supporting people in our first section, and then later on we'll talk about two more crucial roles, one around communicating and sharing information, and another one around coordinating local support and community assets. And my colleague Jessie will actually take us through that last section as well. So let's move on to supporting people. So here is quite a field busy slide. So what roles can communities play in supporting people during emergencies? So And before we look at actually some practical examples in a minute, it's worth reflecting on why does that matter? And we know that emergencies do not affect everyone in the same way. Some residents may be more exposed to some risks, and they might be more vulnerable people to some impacts of some emergencies. Or they might be less able to actually support when the access support when they need it. So a very strong community connection can really help ensure people receive the support they need. So especially when the services are under great pressure and can be disrupted as well. Um, and so although the hazards we've discussed today, they look different, we said it, the impact on communities are also very similar sometimes, we said already. So you can think about during an emergency, communities that can play a really important role in supporting people. They can help identify emerging needs, they can carry out welfare checks, they can reach the vulnerable residents using their own network, they can share trusted information, and they can connect people with the practical support that exists. And while communities do not replace emergency responders, I can't stress that enough, for the statutory services, they are really very well placed to actually provide the local knowledge and the trusted relationships that exist within the community. Um, Now, however, effective community response rarely starts really on the day that an incident occurs. Community can also have already built relationships and understood the local needs, and they can have strengthened those networks before an incident happens, so in preparedness. And in the same way, the role of communities does not really end with immediate emergency response. Once that immediate emergency is over, communities can continue to support the residents during the recovery. It's important to remember that. And so, are we gonna when we're gonna be moving through the next example, we can you'll notice that actually the hazards might change within the examples, but many of the community actions will actually remain the same and be very helpful and can be applicable to other risks that you may be concerned about in your community. So uh, uh, the first practical way community can support people is by identifying needs as they emerged during an incident, sorry. So it will include understanding who in the community may need additional supports, and it includes as well recognizing that the people that may be more difficult to reach, who they are, and there might be normal routines that people know more in the communities that could become disrupted as well. Secondly, on that slide, you can see connecting people during the disruption, very crucial when everyday systems and routines are affected by an emergency. Communities can really help maintain informal connection and reduce the isolation. And that will be by making sure they draw an existing relationship and the local network that already exists in the picture. Uh, Third on that slide is during an emergency, doing checking in. This is when communities can really do practical action. They can carry out welfare checks, um, knowing what are the emerging needs for their own populations, for their own community members, and they can provide reassurance. They can give immediate support of the people affected to the people affected. The last one there is signposting. It helps people access that trusted information we talked about and making sure it's information that is up to date, that it can be understood by the community, that they know exactly what action they may need to actually take. And especially if the situation is changing quickly, changing that guidance as well to the population. So all together, these actions show that community really play a practical, important role to support people. So on to our real life examples. This one is highlighting the Warm Welcome Spaces initiative, which is a network of community venues across the UK that open their doors during periods of cold weather. So obviously, maybe this week we're not thinking about these events that much, these incidents that much, but emergency can occur the other way than we are experiencing this week. And also they can open their doors on sort of wider cost of living pressures that people experience in communities. So these spaces, they provide a warm, safe, and welcoming environment for people to get together, to access support, to reduce isolation during the times of need. We'll also just watch a video next that highlight what these spaces are. So I'm going to play that, and we'll share also the link in the chat so that you can have a look at the website by yourself. But let's play that video
The
quickly.
story of Warm
About two
Welcome
minutes.
began with a meeting between faith leaders and the former Prime Minister, Gordon Brown. And one of the things that Gordon Brown said was that he was in touch with local authorities that were planning what he described as train station waiting room style heated spaces for families that were going to be struggling to heat their homes during the winter. That image really hit home with everybody. And made everybody feel we've got to do something better than a train station waiting room.
It was the bank who rang me and said, Mrs. Copeland, do you realise you've overdrawn? I've turned the heating off. We are all finding it hard to manage, to make ends meet. You go around there and you can enjoy it and you know that you're welcome. You're not going in, oh, they want to get rid of you.
If you were to come to my house for a meal, I want you to have a great experience. I want you to come in and feel comfortable, laugh, joke, cry even, together in a secure kind of fellowship. A warm space provides that for people.
Even with the government help, there's still now almost 4 million children living in food poverty. In this country, there's more than 8 million people living in fuel poverty. So it's enormous numbers that we're talking about. And of course, behind those huge statistics are real human stories.
Every part of the community has its strength. You bring them all together and you put it all in one big pot. The whole community is strong, isn't it? Or stronger. And it's not about just us helping people here. When they get outside, they help each other. They set up WhatsApp groups. They take phone numbers. They talk to each other. They meet each other in the shops or the streets.
Oh, it's warm space. It's warm welcome. You go in there, you might be miserable and down, but you come out with a smile on your face.
It's very good here. Different people from different backgrounds, different countries and that. We play bingo here sometimes, and it's very good. It make me laugh, and different people and children even come sometimes, playing and things like that. We need more of these places. We need more places like this.
Right. So hopefully this is helpful to understand how this can really help, and it could be that this initiative is something that you'd like to think about for your committee as well. So we've just looked at one example in detail through the Warm Welcome Spaces initiative, but there are many other initiatives and resources that committees can draw on to support residents during emergencies. So I'm going to list a few there, and you can have a look in your own time at the links. The first resource I'd like to highlight is Cool Spaces London, obviously very relevant given that we are going through a red alert for heat this week. So it's similar, if you like, to the Warm Welcome concept. And this initiative helps community respond to period of extreme heat, obviously by identifying and promoting full accessible spaces where people can find relief during hot weather like we're having this week. And the program provides guidance as well for organizations that want to participate and help residents locate where is the nearby cool space that they can actually join in. When those temperatures are becoming quite dangerous. So you can have a look at the at the link as well that I will intend in a minute to share in the chat. The second link there is the Priority Services Register, which is another very valuable resource, which is particularly good for supporting residents who may be disproportionately affected by emergencies and especially service disruption. So people that are registered on the scheme may receive additional support from utility providers during incidents. And that's something that people might not actually always be aware of, and they might not even realize they're eligible for it. So it's always very good to signpost and support people in that way by pointing at the right direction for it. So I'll also share the information for that in the chat in a moment. And another link at the bottom, which is just worth mentioning because it's an idea it's worth exploring. It's local volunteering and community support networks that we'll talk a bit more in the third section of today as well. So we can move on to our second section, which is this time thinking more about the role of communicating and sharing information that community can really, really help during emergencies. So the role we've thought about supporting people, and a good way to support people is to help the information flow effectively. So during an emergency, people often need information very quickly, and information that they can understand without problem, and they can know exactly what's happening and what action that they may need to actually take. And also where can they access that support. So communities can really help by sharing the trusted information, help reach the people that, may sometimes miss that information, and also feeding the local information and the need of the population back to the emergency responders. So really important. So our focus today is on response, but again, these communication networks are often most effective when relationships and channels have already been established before an emergency is occurring. So it's always worth mentioning that there. So what are the practical ways communities can support communication and information sharing? First, communities can help share the trusted information from the official sources, as we mentioned already. Secondly, they can help the information reach the people that may not otherwise see that information, that important update. So this also can be done definitely by encouraging household preparedness whenever you can in your community. The third image there illustrates that obviously listening to the local concern and identifying the emerging needs of the population in your community is crucial. And finally, relay. This is very important. It's about relaying the information back to the organizations and the responders, and help create that two-way flow of information between the different between the community and all the more formal organizations that are dealing with responding to emergencies. So all these actions really will help ensure that the communication is not just simply a broadcast to the community, but rather it's a way of really sharing and understanding the information for those communities. So again, to bring this role of the communities to life, we can introduce some real life examples. And so I'm going to talk a bit about the community flood action groups, and I'll have some real example to illustrate as well. So community flood action groups, they are community-led groups. They help residents, local authorities, and other organizations work together so they can improve flood resilience. But again, this is transferable to other risks that we talked about earlier. Community flood action groups, they play an important communication role, especially, obviously, because that's why we talk about them in this section, but they help share trusted information and local updates. They support communication networks within communities. They also help residents understand their local risks and how the warning systems apply to them. They can act as a bridge between communities and the more official actors. So they're really, really crucial. They are a great way of bringing communication and information sharing to life. That's why we're talking about them today. So, and here's is worth mentioning the National Flood Forum. It's in the blue box there on my slide, which describes flood action groups as a way to bring people together, to listen to their concerns and understand. They give communities a voice. So that really capture the communication role that these groups are particularly well representing, and how they make sure effective communication during emergency is not just passing information on. It's about ensuring that the local experiences, the concerns, the needs are heard as well. So these groups are often supported by the National Flood Forum. So as I already mentioned, the National Flood Forum, so you can have a look on their website. They raise a lot there of kind of help for communities on how to prepare, respond to, and recover from flooding. And through their website, you can access loads of guidance and you can look at case studies and things like that to strengthen your local resilience, maybe by creating a flood action groups as well. On the next slide, we'll look at two real life examples. So we've got on the left, the Shipton Area Flood Action Group, which is also known as SAFAG. You can see their logo there on the left. So what happened is following severe flooding in the area, local residents came together, and that was back in 2014, so quite a while ago now, and they created that flood group. And it started as a local response, and it has really since developed into a volunteer network that are working across multiple communities now, and they try to reduce flood risks and they strengthen resilience within the River Star catchment area. So they work really closely with local authority, with the Environment Agency, with landowners as well, and other partners in their area, so that what we can actually notice is obviously they didn't really appear overnight. All these really important connection built and maintained over many, many years. But that's important to note that obviously the group is still very active and alive after what is 12 years of existence. So, and then you can see that on the right side, another group called the Flood Action for Buckingham, sorry, which is also really important, this example. And the group was created a bit more recently in 2024 following repeated flooding concerns in the area. And it was created to help the residents work together, engage more effectively with different organizations that are responsible for managing flood. And so they have become since then, so about 2 years ago, a really important voice for the local community. And they really help the residents' experience and concern and local knowledge to be considered within, the wider management of flooding in the area. Communication is really central to what they do. I'm going to show you some resources from these two websites now, so you can have more of an idea of what they provide for their residents. So on the left are some resources, only some. There's a load more that you can explore in your own time. So they have different formats that suits everyone. That can access these resources, but their primary goal is to inform people. So they'll have things like important how they can access important alerting systems, and there is a places where they can go on the website to access river level monitoring, for example, so to be well informed from trusted sources. And on the right, you can see some resources from the Flood Action for Birmingham website. It's also really rich page with loads of various downloadable toolkits and guides from loads of topics. So insurance, for example, features are there as well. So the residents can really go and consult important documentation that they want to be aware of. There's also a page where it links you directly to the alerting systems as well. But not only that, you can also know exactly where you can report important things like block drains, for example. So these are some resources there that people put together on websites as a part of a flood group. So this is really very powerful tool to inform residents in a good way. Again, further resources you might want to explore about that topic. One is the Weather Ready partnership between the Met Office and Practical Guidance that to help individual and community groups and organizations prepare and respond to severe weather in general. So it has loads of different things like checklists, advice, resources that you can go and consult online as well. The next one in the list is the weather warning systems. So always good to be aware of them. These are official warnings of severe weather, such as, heat wave like we are experiencing this week, but other risks as well. So there's again the website at the bottom, which I'll share in a minute. Again, you can have a look at the Environment Agency flood warning system, which help people to sign up for flood alerts and be warned when it's relevant to them as well in their local or area. So I'll share that as well. Also, something to be aware of is the local resilience forums. They bring together the emergency services, the local authorities, and other organizations that are responsible for emergency planning and response. And many of these these local resilience forums, they're going to publish local risk information and resources. So it's really useful to partner with local resilience forum as a community, so you can really better understand your risks and the resilience arrangement in your area. So I'll signpost that in chat in a moment. And also to highlight is our own Communities Prepared program, and particularly the Community Emergency Planning workshop that we run. It supports communities to think through how they would communicate and coordinate during an emergency. So very interesting. You can sign up for free if you go on our website. We've got loads of different hazard focus sessions as well. So before we move on to the next session, worth remembering obviously that communication starts long before an emergency again. So you can encourage people to do some household preparedness. You can talk to young people about how they can help to be more resilient as well. But I'm going to now move on to our third section. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen so that Jessie will take it on from there and share their own screen. Thank you, everyone.
Hi, everyone. Just as I do the things of figuring out how to use Zoom, I hope everyone's okay. I am coming to you from a very sweaty Manchester. So yeah, thank you. What I'm going to be chatting to you for the next I don't know what time it is, maybe 10 minutes or so, is about the role of VC FSC organizations in coordinating local support for in an emergency and coordinating community assets. Obviously, this program has talked you through community emergency planning, and ideally, having a community emergency plan and enacting that plan is kind of the neatest way of going about and doing this. But you can be involved in coordinating local support and community assets without a community emergency plan. It just helps. And what I'm going to chat to you about might be things that you might want to think about adding into a community emergency plan if you've got one. So why does it matter? Well, a well-organized response is key to making sure that people are safe and well. That's really the crux of it. But the voluntary sector has a really important role to play, not least because we know that there is this gap between the need. When an emergency happens, state responders are, often incredibly busy. There's only so much that they can do in that situation. So there's a kind of a gap between what needs to happen and what the state response can do. That's where the voluntary sector can come in. But also, the voluntary sector is best placed often to engage with the community in ways that state responders can't. They have knowledge of communities, knowledge of community networks that can be effectively mobilized. Before you respond, it might be that you've done lots of training and chatting to people and creating relationships amongst your local networks, and had these conversations, and hopefully that is something that you're all thinking about doing now. That's obviously in the prepare phase. In the respond phase, you would then activate those organizations within your network to just help out. And the key thing here is you're kind of supporting, complementing a state response rather than replacing it. So the state responders will be doing their thing, you will be doing your own thing, but they're working in tandem, so not against each other. You can do this work without having done any of the preparation work, any of that relationship building. However, it's so much more easier for you to have to respond in a crisis when you're not working from a blank sheet of paper, when you've got pre-established relationships, where you've thought through some options of what to do, and you've thought through what you want to do in a certain situation. It's going to make you more effective. Obviously, we're not going to massively talk about recovery, but recovery is a thing that basically starts as soon as the emergency starts. So there is a role there for voluntary sector organisations too in debriefing, identifying training plans, improving any community emergency plans, and checking in with people within your network. So there's a few practical ways that organizations can coordinate response. So we've covered a lot of this stuff in various sections of these webinars, but essentially knowing what assets your community has, who the people are within those organizations and what they can do and whether they've got any training needs, really important. Creating some sort of memorandum of understanding or some agreement so organizations know what to do or what's expected of them in an emergency, and potentially connect those organizations with state responders. Mobilizing those organizations to act, following state responders' advice, don't put anyone at risk, and having a space in which you are able to share learnings, debrief with people in the recover phase is really important. And the voluntary sector can be really, really, really important in helping a community understand what has happened to them, and community organizations to understand what they've been through and how they can improve it next time. So a little example here from up in Manchester. So in 2025, there was a New Year's Day flood in Didsbury in South Manchester, and luckily the mosque, which had previously 3 times acted as a reception centre, so they'd kind of been involved in quite a lot of resilience activity already. They knew to kind of keep be in receipt of flood alerts. They saw the river had broken its bank, called up the local authority and said, let's get the mosque open as a reception centre. So the mosque itself coordinated the local authority and other partners like the Red Cross to open the reception centre, and then got in touch with loads of local voluntary sector organisations to get other support such as food, blanket, baby items, and volunteers. Even local doctors came to support with medical help. And so this is one of those rare situations when there's an organization that really knows what they're doing. They've done it before. They just are able to just kind of run with it and coordinate even the state response. Often you will find organizations such as local infrastructure organizations will be also involved in efforts like these. So one of those things when you're kind of thinking through creating or expanding a network of people within your community, a network of different organizations who are able to respond. You need to know what organizations are offering, what is it they can do? Are they offering bodies on the day to volunteer? Are they offering specific support services? Are they offering a venue? Um, what training needs do they have to make them feel confident in being able to act and to know what they're doing? How do you activate them? This is really important. So having a sense of who are you calling up? When can you call them up? Can you call them up at 2 a.m. And will they answer? How are they linked up with other organizations? What reach do they have? Um, when you are responding, how do you log all of your decisions when you respond? Do you have a kind of a pro forma already printed out within your emergency kit that you can bring out and you can write down all of the decisions that you make, such that when it comes to dissecting what has happened after this, you have a log of actions there. And is that something that is, relatively uniform across your network of organizations who are responding? And how do you share learning together afterwards, or before? So this is some things to be thinking about when talking about working with partners, organizations. Um, I should just say this: the image behind here is taken from COVID. Lots and lots of organizations got involved in coordinating response to COVID. So many voluntary sector organizations have done this. If they've been around for more than 5 years, they've been doing mutual aid. They've been doing helping people get vaccinated at clinics. They've been helping people get testing, all of that stuff. So it's within people's power to do this for other emergencies too. Working with spontaneous volunteers, when an emergency happens, sometimes people turn up and they just want to help, and that is great. Such a good sign that the world wants things to be okay. Although it does have some management issues because you've suddenly got a bunch of people who want a job, who might be annoyed if you don't give them a job. If something goes wrong and you had all of these volunteers and they were blocked from being involved, that potentially could be a bad look. So making a good use of this energy is really important. So plan for spontaneous volunteers to turn up, and have some self-led roles that people can do on their own or in small groups that doesn't it wouldn't necessarily involve a safeguarding risk that you can give to anyone and that would be safe for them to do. Um, Thinking about having a volunteer manager involved in this process to manage those people as they come in. One thing that's really useful within emergencies is having needs and offers boards, and spontaneous volunteers can be really important, have a really important role in managing that board or being directed to the board to see if there's anything that they can do. It might be that you need to have a brief safety briefing. You might need to take identification so you know who you're working with. You'll have to debrief with them afterwards and think about insurance and liability. And so the main thing here is make sure that nobody's working alone and make sure that nobody's doing any tasks that will put them in danger. So if it's everyday tasks such as talking to people, such as making cups of tea, directing people to a particular place, cleaning, that sort of thing, that's totally fine. And so the image behind is actually a bunch of spontaneous volunteers who turned up to help clear up after the Middlesbrough civil unrest. So lots of people doing really important work. So some resources to shout out here. Obviously, we've got Communities Prepared. We have put that in twice, and it's because we're twice as good. No, that's a mistake. But we are so good, we have to mention it twice. Local infrastructure organizations are really useful at coordinating this work, and I saw in the chat that somebody from Voluntary Action Harrow has been doing some really important work. So go and check out the chat, what they've been saying. And you also might find useful the government's resilience project, which is Prepare. As always, we'll send these links out to you. So I think now it is time for the last poll before we say goodbye. Fab. So this is basically just a kind of a confidence scale. So how confident are you that your community can respond effectively using some of the today's approaches that we've been talking about? So 0 being no confidence whatsoever, 1 being little confidence, 5 being I'm really confident. I think what I'm seeing from the initial results is that we've got a lot of 4s. Maybe some people are hedging a little bit. Emergencies are a scary topic, but actually, because you're all involved in the voluntary sector, you have the skills to do this work. And you've probably done some of it before. It just sometimes can be a bit intimidating when you add an emergency label on top of something. But this often this is stuff that you'll be doing already. Meetings, talking to people, supporting people, making sure people are okay. That's within your wheelhouse for sure. Okay, so as we come to the end of the session today, Violaine, is there any burning questions from the chat?
I haven't spotted any, although I have been spending a lot of time putting links. I don't know if Eli, have you noticed any question that we haven't really answered?
No, there weren't questions. Lots of commentary, but not so many questions. So if you do have questions, since we are out of time, you can also email them to us. I'll put LSEPs, but also VLN can put in communities prepared. And I want to comment too on that confidence. And I've made some comments in the chat about this, that what really builds confidence isn't just the learning this, like in sessions like these, and knowing how it works and what ideas you can have to do to prepare, respond, and recover, but it's practice, practice, practice. All practitioners say it's practice either in real life or in exercises, even if it's an hour with your staff to run through some examples and what you would do, also with other organizations in your community, even better, particularly with your borough resilience forum. So I wanted to add that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Great. I think we've come to 2 o'clock now, so we can let everyone go. I hope you all have found this useful. Please remember to fill in the exit poll. This helps us design future sessions, so it's really, really important for you to fill it out. But as you're doing that, I hope you managed to keep cool this afternoon, and I hope this has been useful. We will send out the slides, so feel free to absorb them later. Again, if like me, you're not working on full power because you look like a wilted rose in a vase or something.
I will also share in the chat just the link to register for our next webinar, which is in July. So please register and join. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.